Mara had always been drawn to the old and mysterious, an affinity that led her to choose a charming yet slightly dilapidated apartment building with a history of housing strange occurrences. The place had character, or so her landlord had assured her, and as Mara stepped into her new abode, she couldn't help but feel a sense of intrigue and nostalgia. The apartment was filled with an assortment of odd knickknacks, and its creaky wooden floors held countless stories within their aged boards. Mara explored every nook and cranny, discovering forgotten relics of a bygone era. She was particularly enchanted by the attic, which was tucked away behind a hidden door at the end of the hallway. The attic was a time capsule of forgotten treasures, covered in dust and cobwebs. Mara carefully moved through the cluttered space, her curiosity guiding her every step. As she reached the far corner, her eyes fell upon a dusty, ornate mirror hidden beneath an old, moth-eaten blanket. The mirror was an exquisite piece of craftsmanship. Its wooden frame was intricately carved with twisted vines and delicate roses, the designs showing remarkable attention to detail. There was an aura about the mirror, a haunting beauty that Mara couldn't resist. She felt a strange connection to it, as though it had been waiting for her to discover it all along. Mara decided to bring the mirror down to her bedroom and hang it on the wall. As she stared into the aged glass, she couldn't help but be captivated by her reflection. It was as though the mirror had the power to enhance her features, making her feel like the most beautiful woman in the world. Every time she gazed into it, she saw herself as radiant and alluring, a vision of perfection. It boosted her confidence, and she couldn't get enough of it. However, as time passed, Mara began to notice subtle changes in her reflection. Her once flawless skin lost its luster, becoming sallow and pallid. The sparkle in her eyes dulled, and her hair lost its vibrancy, turning into a lifeless, tangled mess. She was horrified by the transformation. She scrutinized her face in front of the mirror, trying to pinpoint the source of her fading beauty. She assumed it was due to stress or some change in her diet, but she couldn't shake the feeling that the mirror held some dark secret. Mara would stand before the mirror for hours, her obsession with her appearance growing more intense. She wanted to recapture the radiant image that the mirror had once shown her, a relentless need to reaffirm her beauty. Her friends noticed the change in her behavior, but she brushed off their concerns, insisting that she was simply trying to look her best. One evening, as Mara stood before the mirror, she noticed something peculiar. Her reflection seemed to hesitate just for a brief moment before mimicking her actions. At first, she dismissed it as a trick of the light, but the unsettling feeling lingered. It was as if the mirror was mocking her, intentionally lagging behind. Nights were the worst. When Mara tried to sleep, she couldn't help but catch glimpses of movement in the mirror, just beyond the edges of her vision. Her heart pounded as she watched shadows flit in the glass, but every time she turned to confront them, they vanished into thin air. Sleep eluded her, replaced by an ever-growing sense of dread. Terrified and sleep-deprived, Mara began to question her own sanity. She couldn't deny that something was terribly wrong with the mirror, but she couldn't bring herself to face the possibility that her reflection was not her own. Her world was unraveling, and she felt trapped in a nightmare. One fateful night, after tossing and turning for hours in her restless bed, Mara sat up and looked at the mirror. The reflection staring back at her sent a chill down her spine. It wasn't her anymore. It was a grotesque caricature of herself. Her reflection's eyes were hollow, its skin pale and wrinkled, and its hair hung in greasy strands. It grinned maliciously, revealing a row of jagged yellow teeth. Paralyzed with fear, Mara watched in horror as her reflection stepped out of the mirror, its movements eerily disjointed. It reached out with bony fingers, clamping down on her wrist with a strength she couldn't resist. She screamed as she felt an icy sensation spreading through her body, freezing her from the inside. In a final, desperate attempt, Mara tried to pull away from her malevolent doppelganger, but it was futile. With a violent yank, her reflection dragged her through the mirror, and her world dissolved into darkness. Mara found herself trapped inside the mirror, her body feeling ethereal and insubstantial. She pounded on the glass, screaming for help, but no sound escaped her lips. The room she once inhabited had become an empty, lifeless space. Outside the mirror, the wicked reflection of Mara, now free from its confines, stared back with a sinister grin. It was free to roam the real world, while the real Mara was forever condemned to exist in the distorted realm of the antique mirror.